Today, I want to talk about something very important. Today, I want to talk about addiction, not from a place of shame or pathology or moral failure, but from a spiritual and energetic perspective. Because addiction is not weakness, not a lack of willpower, and it's not something that means you're broken. In the spiritual community, addiction is actually a signal. It's a message from the nervous system, from the soul, that the body is saying something is not right, something's unresolved, there's a need unmet, and something is out of alignment. If you're going through an addiction right now, it's important that you begin to reframe your addiction spiritually. So, from a spiritual perspective, addiction is often a coping mechanism for spiritual disconnection. If you're going through an addiction, you may ask yourself, am I disconnected from safety, self, the body, purpose, truth, or love? Many people who struggle with addiction are actually highly sensitive and intuitive, empathic, or energetically open people. And when those gifts aren't supported or protected or even understood, the system, your body systems will look for relief anywhere that it can find it. And this can range from substances, behaviors, food, sex, scrolling, gambling. But these aren't the root of your addiction. They're the regulation attempt to bring you into a sense and state of presence and relief. Spiritually and biologically, addiction is often about regulating an overwhelmed nervous system. So if your body never learned safety, if you grew up in chaos, neglect, control, abuse, or emotional inconsistency, your body systems may live in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. These individuals will then gravitate towards addiction temporarily because it will numb the pain that one's feeling. It will dismiss the emotions that one is feeling. It creates an artificial sense of safety. It gives an artificial sense of relief. It offers control when we feel out of control. And it also provides a sense of presence. So addiction healing isn't about stopping what you're doing. It's about teaching your body and soul new ways to feel safe without self-abandonment. One of the most important truths about addiction is that shame keeps addiction alive. Okay. So if you're holding on to a lot of shame or guilt, these are actually some of the lowest frequencies you can feel in the frequency chart in your body. Shame will feed your addiction. Shame will lower your frequency. Shame collapses your energy field. And shame disconnects you from source, intuition, and self trust. When someone says, what's wrong with me? Instead of what's happening to me, the addiction tightens its grip. So the words you're speaking, the way you're thinking about your addiction are going to be very important for you to finally begin to get control over what has control over you. Healing begins when curiosity replaces judgment. Okay, so you have to be curious about the other way of healing, which is spiritual healing. We always are given the Western medicine perspective to heal addiction. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. But from what I've seen, it's failing a lot of people. People are not resonating with it, and we relapse over and over and over again. Why? Because addiction is a soul wound that you cannot fix with medicine. So, from a soul perspective, some addictions are tied actually to soul contracts. So, just that awareness alone may help you to free yourself to think maybe before I came to Earth, I signed on to having an addiction during this period of my life. I came to Earth and would go through an addictive pattern because I'm here to learn how to overcome it and maybe go out and teach others how to overcome it. So from a soul perspective, that soul contract may actually be tied to your DNA. So ancestral trauma, and it often is. Past life imprints, survival vows. A lot of times we vow to stay in poverty. We vow to stay in survival mode unconsciously. We're not aware of it. How our thoughts are keeping us in a state of scarcity and lack and disempowerment. We vowed almost to that darkness, that ignorance, and given our power away in that direction for so long, we now are in a state of disempowerment. So once you begin to revoke those vows, all of a sudden that grip begins to loosen. We also have a lot of soul contracts around suffering and awakening. Some souls choose harder paths here on earth because they're meant to transmute density into wisdom, not bypass it. That doesn't mean addiction is meant to stay. It means that it can become a portal to deep awakening when met consciously. One of the most subtle spiritual traps is identifying as the addiction. We tend to tell ourselves, I am an addict. Okay. I will always struggle. This is just who I am. When we get into this self-talk, we actually begin to trap ourselves. So remember that identity is a frequency, and the way that you identify is significant to your addiction recovery. Resonance is you're going to be one of your biggest tools to help you get through addiction. Once you raise your frequency, we tend to become out of alignment with the addictive identity that we once were channeling. When the addiction becomes identity, the nervous system protects it as survival. Healing begins when you gently shift from I am this to I am experiencing this. I experienced this. Once you make that shift, you'll begin to notice the difference between your thought and the presence that's guiding you. You'll begin to have awareness that you're not the craving. You're also not the compulsion. You are the awareness that's witnessing all of it. And when you begin to become more familiar and have a relationship with this presence, you then become more empowered and can then take hold over anything that has a hold over you. Addiction pulls you into the future. You will constantly be thinking about, I need relief. I need relief. I've got to do this. I've got to work my life around so I can have relief here. Or it'll keep you in the past. I can't escape from this. I did this. I will never be able to live this out. I'm going to be punished because I did this. Healing happens in the present moment. When you can sit with discomfort, even for 30 seconds without fleeing it, something profound will shift within you. You can't escape, disown, or reject parts of yourself. So when you sit with the emotion that you're facing, you begin to overpower it. And that's where your real shift will occur. Often we're just looking for an escape of that discomfort. But the more comfortable you can be with discomfort, the more you will have success, not only through addiction healing, but life in general. So your presence raises your frequency. Your presence collapses compulsive loops. Presence reconnects you to the power of your choice. When you're going through addiction healing, it's important to remember that you are replacing these habits and not removing it. A spiritual truth that many don't talk about is you don't heal addiction by removing something. You heal it by replacing it with regulation, meaning, and connection. This can be including more nature into your day, more breath work, more movement, creativity, rituals, community, purpose, spiritual practices. Think about quantum physics if you are trying to heal an addiction. We live in a vacuum. Nothing is really empty. When you remove something, instantly the space is filled. So in order for you to get to the next level, often we have to release our addictions before we can even level up. And one of the best things you can do is to release the addiction through replacing it with something that's nourishing. Your soul needs nourishment if you have an addiction, not deprivation. Begin to look at your addiction as calling your soul back into your body. Getting grounded into the body can be a powerful tool to heal some of the most intense and chronic illnesses like cancer. So when we ground, it is extremely helpful for breaking addictions as well. If you're not in your body, you will not fully heal. Getting into the body can transform your life in miracle ways. It's unbelievable how grounding actually is the key that you've been missing. And it's free and you can do it at any moment. Many addictions exist because people live above their bodies, connected just through your silver tube. When you're out of your body, you're dissociated. You're hyper mental, you're hyper in the third dimension, and you're forgetting that you're soul. So healing will require you to be grounded, embodied, breathing, and to have somatic awareness. Your body's not the enemy, it's the messenger. So if you struggle with addiction, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not weak, you're not broken, and you're not failing your spiritual path. You're actually being invited into a deeper sense of self-trust, nervous system healing, and embodied sovereignty. And healing doesn't happen through punishment. It happens through compassion, consistency, and resonance. So those that have a lot of intuitive abilities will struggle with addiction. This should also match your life contract or your astrology. So it's incredibly important that you know thyself if you are trying to heal an addiction. You may naturally have more elements like fire. Fire signs tend to struggle with addictions. Air signs tend to struggle with addictions. I mean, water signs, all signs that are passionate and fixed can struggle with addictive patterns. Okay. So you want to know yourself. You want to know your archetypal energy. Who are you? Certain archetypal energies, like the entertainer, tends to struggle with addiction because they're always putting these different masks on versus wearing their true self and being in the present moment. The fixer archetypal energy also tends to have a lot of addiction wounds because they are always trying to live towards a state of perfection. If you are a talker, okay, so the communicator tends to have a lot of addiction, mainly because they're always talking, 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 talking. And a lot of times it leads to a lot of regret or unkind words said. And we tend to regret what we've said. We tend to feel ashamed for the way we've presented ourselves. We tend to wish we didn't say that, and we will punish ourselves because we were not centered when we spoke. You have to understand who you are at soul level and the personas that are operating through you to understand your addiction. Once you can know yourself and say, I do this under pressure, I do that once I get under stress. When I'm going through a change or transition in my life, I tend to go and escape in this way. I tend to avoid and do that. I have this attachment style in relationships. Once you know yourself, you become again aware of presence, and you can then become aware that you have a power over your presence in mind. Accept yourself, love yourself, and forgive yourself for the things you may have messed up about in the past. A lot of times our past is keeping us there in a place of illusion that we deserve to suffer for the things we've done. If you can psychically look at different timelines to find the root trauma that led to your first addiction, this will also help you to have awareness of what has control over you. So, for example, there may have been a trauma in childhood where you saw your parents fighting. And from that moment, a coping mechanism of pulling back and hiding. Now, as an adult, every time that you hear fighting or under pressure or someone that disagrees with you, your body might go through remembrance of that time and go and hide and go and isolate. And in those moments of isolation, you may then try to find some sense of relief through addiction. Often it's soul contracts too. Certain contracts with different individuals or organizations that are doing harm to others or the planet can keep you on a soul trap of addiction. And as soon as you sign off, it feels like there's a huge relief over you and you no longer are so addicted to certain substances. Sign off contracts and watch life begin to be a lot easier for you. And this can also include cutting cords from toxic relationships, people, places, and things. Let it go. Let that job go. It has an energy and an atmosphere over you that you want to release yourself from. Think of addiction as self imprisonment. No one is doing this to you. You are, in a sense, in your own place of imprisonment, and it is your job to get yourself out. One of the best tools you can do to heal an addiction is to connect with the light. You can begin to channel light through your body. So if you're dealing with an addiction, the first thing you want to do is call your angels in. Call your angels in to guide you. Let them know that you're done with this pain. Let them know that you want to choose the path of control over self imprisonment. Let them know that you need assistance and that you don't feel you can do this alone. They will rush in. That is their purpose. They love to help with addiction healing. They love to help with physical healing. So think of healing like a triangle: body, mind, and spirit. Usually, you're going to need to regulate your endocrine system and your nervous system. These two systems are going to be completely out of whack if you are struggling with substance abuse. Keeping yourself in a toxic form of thinking, negative thought patterns can be very addicting and have a hold over us. So addiction isn't necessarily a substance. Either way, if your mind is in that loop of dissociation, escapism, or avoidance, it's going to imbalance your physical body. And there's many different remedies, there's many different modalities you can use to help bring yourself into that state, whether it's Western medicine, whether it's acupuncture, massage therapy, hypnotherapy, whether it's herbology, juicing, detoxing, detoxification. All of that to get the substance out of your system is really going to help you to get more power over your physical body. Think of mentalism and study mentalism to help you get through addiction. When you connect with the light, you begin to bring light into your body. So you may not know where there's imbalance. Some of us are escaping pain from illness. That's why we get into addiction. So let's say there's something going on in the body and you feel sick. But when you close your eyes and call your angels to bring in healing energy into your body, direct that energy to go wherever there is imbalance in the body. And you may not even know. So something I've done in the past is say, I bring the white light in and I say, heal any imbalance in my brain, heal any imbalance in my gut, bringing this white light through my body to remove and dissolve all cords, tethers, ties to pain, to suffering, to illness. When you channel light, your resonance goes way up, your frequency goes way up. And as you ascend in frequency and resonance, addiction will no longer be able to be a match to you. Addiction is a very low frequency of self imprisonment, and it is actually a form of spiritual and soul slavery. You'll also really want to heal your parental wounds and your inner child. Okay, so a lot of us that are struggling with addiction as adults never fully healed parental wounds in their inner child. So once you're able to understand your parental wounds, no matter how old you are, and I'll tell you, I've worked with people in their 60s, 70s that still have parental wounds and inner child wounds. If you don't address this, your inner child will guide you your entire life. You must heal the wounds tied around your parents because this is part of our human nature to be born from two. And if there's any wounds around that, there will be disharmony in the field. Once you can forgive, have wisdom to why it happened, you can then finally break the chains of addiction and move forward. Heal your inner child. You may also want to seek some sort of energy healing to help you with addiction relief. So this can often look like Reiki, quantum energy healing, laying on of hands. Another powerful technique that can help you with addiction healing would be spirit release therapy. Okay, so it breaks the chains of poverty. Spirits can cause a lot of accidents. They can cause a lot of arguments with people. And once you free yourself of those entities and spirits, you then are in a higher frequency that no longer is a match to addiction. You also have to find your soul's purpose. A lot of us are addicted because we want to escape our present moment. If you're not living on soul's purpose, you're going to feel out of alignment. So you have to seek the path that you've come to earth to do in order to really find a sense of peace with the present moment. So find your soul's purpose through your life contract, your astrology, and sitting with your guides and higher self. If you're struggling with addiction, you also want to understand the healthy masculine and healthy feminine archetypal energies. And you want to embody or evoke the healthy masculine and feminine. So depending on how you identify, the healthy masculine is out hunting, going and getting what he wants. The healthy feminine is sitting back and relaxing and magnetizing to her what she wants. So once you're able to have a sense of peace and live a lifestyle where you can do that, where you can be what makes you healthy and in flow, your addiction will naturally become out of resonance with you. For example, a lot of women are in their masculine and don't resonate with that. And so they're out in the workforce in a man's world and going and hustling and in traffic and on their period, they're having to be up at the office with heels on and fight in court. All of these different roles in the modern world take you from presence. So you have to take time off as a woman. You have to be able to rest. You have to be able to magnetize to you without the hustle, hustle, hustle. And once you give yourself that sense of relief in your lifestyle, all of a sudden you no longer need that addiction that brought you the relief because your lifestyle is bringing you relief. And it's the same for the masculine. A lot of men don't really know what their sole purpose is, and they're sitting at home not doing anything. They're not chasing, they're not hunting, they're not going out and getting what they want. They don't know how. So once you as a man get into that healthy masculine, all of a sudden you don't even have time to go and sit with the booze or the weed or whatever it is, addictive substance that you were in or escape pattern. Grounding, grounding, grounding. Get grounded in your body to heal addiction. Get in the body and ground. So as you get into addiction healing, create a ceremony or ritual. You need some sort of ceremony or ritual to get you going on your addiction path. You can light a candle, call in your ancestors, and you also want to look to your whatever your ancestral forms of traditions are to help break chains and open roads. You want to lean into that because some of those techniques and traditions are the most powerful for permanently releasing these blocks in your bloodline and spiritual DNA. Once you give that signal to the universe hears you no matter where you are, and you will instantly begin to shift towards that path of addiction clearing. You'll notice once you give that prayer, go into that ritual, all of a sudden the universe then begins to shift and support this deep soul's calling that brings you into a higher frequency. You have to believe and trust that the universe is on your side, has your back, and wants you to live in what we would call paradise or heaven on earth. So the moment you choose love for you, the universe shifts all around you and begins to instantly support you with the things you need in order to bring you into a higher level of self-acceptance and love. Often we feel like we can't heal addiction alone. I want you to know you're never alone. You have a spirit team that guides you and is here to help keep you on track with your soul's purpose. You also have angels. But in addition to that, know that you're not weak to call in another angel, a saint, a patron of whatever it is you are suffering with. So there are plenty of deities and archangels, ascended masters that love to assist us as humans with addiction clearing. One of my favorite is the Christ. Okay, Christ loves to help dissolve addiction patterns and suffering. The list goes on and on. Call in your favorite deity or begin to explore other deities or saints or patrons that do help you with addiction clearing, and you are embodying that spirit as help to clear your addiction.